Hey guys, we got Dr. Brian King back for another episode of Remarkable, starting up right now.
Remarkable, 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 remarkable.
Hey, what's happening, Sean?
Hey, what's up, Dr. King? How's it going, man?
I'm good. I just listened to your second episode of your podcast, and that was pretty interesting. That was definitely. I finally understand why you call it remarkable, because your name is Sean, right?
Sean, yeah.
Yeah. How are you, Sean? Thank you for having me back. I also am surprised to be back so soon, given I feel like I was the first episode, and I'm surprised you've cycled through all your other guests before getting back to me. So I'm appreciative of that.
Well, we're building a Rolodex as we go, Dr. King.
Gotcha. How many is it? Just you got like one page instead of Rolodex? You got to buy more paper. What is we're doing? So how's your podcast been? What's the experience been so far?
Man, so the experience overall it's different than I thought it was going to be. Like for sure, putting all the pieces together. You watch the final product on YouTube and you're so entertained and you're just like, this is so cool. I can do this. And then you start doing it. And then just like a young baby learning how to stand, yeah, I'm just tumbling over and boy, but I think I'm getting the hang of it. Don't take the volume as any evidence at the moment. I think there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff going into it.
Sure.
But yeah.
Well, at least you are putting some production value into your podcast. A lot of people, they just get on the internet, have a phone call, and then it's uploaded right away. That it's very hard to take off if that's what you're producing in the beginning. You want to have a little bit of editing. You want to have some production behind the scenes. And I don't know if I'm interesting enough to bring back to your podcast. Is there anything in particular that you want to talk about with me, or you just want to shoot it?
Dr. King, there's always something interesting to talk with you about. So the last time I had you on, we talked about the psychology, which isn't boring at all. We talked about the science and how the brain and how the human body itself can face adversity and form resilience to that. This time, I wanted to have fun, man. I want to talk to the comedian, Dr. Brian King. It's been a while since I've hung out with him. I've shared the stage with this guy multiple times, and he's so captivating. You can never not watch while he's on stage. For me, it starts.
I appreciate that. Last time we shared the stage together was just a couple of years ago in Nashville. You had, for I guess all intents and purposes, just kind of like retired from performing stand-up comedy, and then I dragged you out to this open mic in East Nashville, I think it was.
Oh, it was, and it was terrible. It was.
Well, I don't know that it was terrible necessarily, but it was definitely something worth watching. That's for sure. It was an interesting trail off, but both of us, though, we were just kind of, I don't think either one of us were at the top of our game when we did that little show in Nashville. But as far as comedy is concerned, I don't know. I have, like you, I haven't been that active as a comedian lately. Although probably, for me, it hasn't been as long. I moved to North Carolina. I think we talked about that last time. And I've been really focused on setting up my new place, getting my kid a decent life. My wife is working, and I'm now teaching college classes, and I live in a town where there's not a lot of stand-up opportunities. So there's that issue as well. If I do want to perform stand-up at a really good show or a really good stage, I've got to drive about an hour to town, either to Raleigh or to Wilmington, and which are great comedy scenes, absolutely. But I don't know that I have the same motivation to drive for comedy that I used to have. I did a show here a couple of weeks ago. I was booked to host a show at a venue that I just don't like, and I just don't think it's a good venue for comedy. But the owners of the venue seem to think that a comedy it fits there, and I don't. I disagree with them, but I'm not going to say no to a gig, So I put whatever I could into it. I put my heart into it. I worked the show, made it as good as I could, but I just didn't feel like I just didn't enjoy it like I used to. Yeah, and then the audience is half stoned anyway. Nobody's really paying attention. The sound system is terrible. The lighting is terrible. It's just an awful show all around from my perspective. But like I said, I think people walked away having fun, and the venue was like, "Oh, we want to do this again. We want to make this every month." And I'm just like, that would be a nightmare for me. Like, I don't want to keep doing this with you. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what my future holds in this town as a comedian. We'll see. But like I said, you don't move to a small city because you're looking to be a famous comedian. I moved here to settle down with my family. I'm close to my parents. I have a great big house. My daughter likes it. And that's all that I really care about right now. Is just my family and my kid. I was listening to your last episode, and you talked a lot about being homeless and traveling around the country and stuff. I don't know if you realize this, Sean. I've lived a good chunk of my life homeless too.
Oh yeah, that is true, isn't it?
No, no. The circumstances were very different for my homelessness, though. Whereas you were homeless, sort of by circumstance, I guess, or by my lack of opportunities. Maybe you could. Yeah, I don't know what caused your homelessness in the beginning.
Well, I really I mean I really think it was stubbornness and not willing to listen or to hear anybody out.
Yeah. I mean, those are internal to you, but I mean,
Oh,
external factors like did somebody kick you out?
oh yes, oh
Did you
yes,
not
yeah.
pay rent? Something like that. I mean, what caused your
It
homelessness?
it was a string of situations like that. Being kicked out from the parents' house, uh, finding a new place to stay, not being able to afford that rent, getting in with like Section 8 even,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not being able to afford that, then going to someone's couch,
Yep.
staying there for a while, um, and then ultimately buying a bus ticket, or in the first case a plane ticket, one way. Like that was my way of solving it. Instead of paying for
Right.
rent, I was like, I'll just buy a
Yeah.
ticket
Just
because that'll solve everything. Yeah, I was just,
you can sleep on the plane, and then you wake up and buy another ticket. No, so I became homeless for a very different reason. I purposely decided that I didn't want a home. I had a place in San Francisco that I was living in, and San Francisco is a pretty expensive city, as everyone knows. This was about 15 years ago, so it was still expensive back then, but not nearly what it costs to live there today. But I was living in this apartment. I paid a few $1,000s a month in rent every week, and then I started traveling the country with my job and with my work, and my traveling would take me away from home, and then frequently, and then I would come back to San Francisco. And it occurred to me that at that point, my rent was just basically paying for a storage facility for my stuff.
mm,
My apartment really had no value. I was just storing my stuff in it, and so I decided to give up the apartment and actually put my stuff in an actual storage unit. And then from that point forward, I started living on the road.
and
So
and what were your feelings during that time when you were coming to the realization that that was the smarter decision?
Well, it definitely. I felt good that I was making that decision. I was in my case, it was absolutely a smarter decision. I wasn't making a decision out of desperation. It was very calculated.
Hmm.
I loved being on the road, and I loved traveling all the time. And although I had no guarantee that I would always be finding work and getting paid to be on the road. I had enough coming in that I was willing to take that gamble. And so, putting my stuff into storage, my rent at the time was about $2,000 a month, and my storage unit at the time was about $80 a month. I immediately cut out $1,900 in
Right.
living
Ooh.
expenses every month. Not to mention, I no longer had to pay electricity. I no longer had to pay, heating. I no longer had to pay any of those bills because, I frankly just didn't have them. So I lived on the road for several years. I actually lived on the road for about 9 years total. It wasn't always easy, but it was a life. And I used to tell people I was homeless. I used to say, because that was effectively the truth, just not what most people think of when they think of somebody who's homeless.
Oh, yeah. No, I get
Yeah.
that a lot. Like
Like I
when
was
people,
homeless with a storage unit full of stuff. I was homeless with rental cars and hotels at my disposal, and income from work that I was doing. But yeah, I was homeless for about 9 years until I settled down. And I only and settling down was a long process as well. It took a few years, but ultimately, where I am right now, this is me being settled. I've got this house, I've got a kid, I've got family nearby, I got a cat. I don't know if I mentioned, but I got a cat. And in fact,
wow.
earlier, right before we got on this podcast, my cat was outside meowing to come back in, and so I went to open the door for him, and he ran inside into the living room, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of peculiar." And so I go over to the living room to see him, and he's laying there, just looking proud as can be, with a dead mouse right in front of him. It was, and this is actually the first I've heard of cats doing this, but this is the first dead mouse he's ever brought back to the family. And I was looking at, I was like, Taco. His name's Taco. I'm like, oh, Taco, you're good boy, Taco. Way to bring me that dead mouse. Now I'm here alone right now, so I decided to hold on to the mouse so that my daughter and wife can appreciate
Oh, wow.
the
All
find.
right.
So
All right. Sorry, PETA. I had nothing to do with this one.
it's I put it on a little plate, stuck it in the fridge. I want them to at least give Taco his credit.
Is this going to be one of those is it cake or not
Oh my
situations?
God, it could be. It very well could be.
Oh, man.
I've never even seen a mouse in this area, but obviously I'm sure there are mice. There's mice everywhere. And good old Taco, man, he found it. He found it, killed it, brought it in. He's like, look what I got! Look what I got! So that was kind of cool.
Well, I guess that means he really appreciates the shelter you provide.
That's right. But yeah, and also as I was listening to your podcast about your homelessness, so I think I knew you in several circumstances when you were homeless, and I knew you at different points in your life that might have been pivotal for you. Like I knew you in Florida. I don't know. Were you homeless when I met you in Florida?
I hadn't officially crossed that threshold. Like I was still yeah, I guess I was. I was couch surfing and uh yeah. Yeah, I'd say I was.
Yeah, you
But
seem
but I was very blended. Like I didn't really uh I was very yeah, I tried to put on a show, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah, like well, you fit in.
yeah.
I mean, I have always so I've never been homeless in that sense of like the destitute sense. I've been homeless with a job. I've never been homeless in that particular situation. But I've always said that like the key to being homeless and getting away with it is to not look like you're homeless. If you don't look homeless, you can walk into a hotel and partake in their free breakfast, and nobody's going to ask you questions. If you
Well,
don't, if
I'd
you don't,
always heard the mannerism would dress for the job you want, and the job I wanted was
that
to have
was
a
living
job.
at
So
home. Yeah.
yeah.
But if you like I used to, I've never taken action on this, but I used to think like if I was truly homeless, like when I was in college, for example, if I was truly homeless, I'd walk around with my backpack and look like any other students, and it's not uncommon to see students like sleeping in the quad or in study, 24-hour study halls and stuff like
Hmm.
that. I mean, so yeah, being able to blend in is a really helpful skill. You don't want to look like the guy with the matted hair with like a couple of birds living in it, and screaming at people with three layers of clothes and a flip flop. You don't want that. Uh, and so when you start to look homeless, that's when you're less.
Well, when you start to look unkept, I think,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
and that's the thing. You're less likely to be allowed in those spaces, without without issue. So yeah, I knew you in Florida, and then and I took you on the road a little bit. Were you homeless when you were on the road with me?
Yes, yep. I I had left my lease
Yeah,
in Gainesville and flew up and didn't tell you anything and was like, let's just go. And
yeah. Well, like that's a nice way to do it though, because honestly, like without having to pay, send money home for rent, you got to pocket all the money we made while we were on tour for that month. So that was kind of cool. It's different when you're like, when you're touring with me, you don't get paid very much. But when you get paid, if you're sending all that money home to cover rent in an apartment that you're not even in, that just seems wasteful to me. So
yeah.
in that extent, it's a good thing you were homeless at that point. And
Well,
then
and
there was,
I'd already purchased the plane ticket too.
yeah, yeah,
Because I was already on that trajectory of, I went on the tour with you and then was like, I'm done being in this town because I had already kind of went through some homelessness there.
yeah,
And then in my head was like, oh, the next step is just going somewhere else. Like that's gonna fix it. And
right.
I did run into you at the next place though.
That's true. Yeah, and then there was Montana. You said
Hmm.
you were homeless in Montana, which was actually kind of interesting to me because I was traveling across country, still homeless. Let's not forget that I did not have a place to live. I was traveling across country with my family, and we were coming through Montana to go to Yellowstone. And you had gotten a job at Yellowstone, and like a day before that I arrived, you lost that job, which is the ironic thing. And here's the thing about you, Sean. All right, your job was providing you with a place to live.
It
Right?
was. Yeah.
And you decided that arguing about Star Wars was more important than having a place to live.
It was a decision I didn't realize that I was definitely making, and
Because I
it,
mean, I forget the details, but you literally had like a verbal fight with a coworker about Star Wars,
yeah,
and that's what led to your getting fired from the job that also provided you with a place to live.
100% true. I do regret that. That was bad.
Yeah.
Especially it was I just got there. I think it was 3 weeks in, maybe 2 weeks in. I had just gotten over elevation sickness. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it was. And then like there's still snow on the ground up there, giant ice pillars,
Yep.
and there I was, homeless again.
Do you remember what that argument was that lost you your
Yeah,
job and put you in living in the woods?
100%. So at that point, I think I was mid 20s. So, feeling like I knew a little bit more than I should. And there was a young hire. I think he was barely 18, but he was like 6'2". He was a giant to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he like leaned over me and he's looking at my arm. I have a tattoo of Boba Fett. And he goes, haha, Jar Jar Binks is better. And not even thinking about it, I looked him right back up in the face and I did one of these numbers to his cheeks and I said, "Hey, Boba Fett's the best. Don't you forget it." And yeah, the next day I got called into the HR's office and they said, "You can't, no, no, no physicalities at all." And I was like, "All right, you're right."
You got fired over defending Boba Fett.
And
It's so
yeah,
ridiculous.
it wasn't worth it. It really wasn't worth it.
No, it's never worth it. I don't care if it was the best job in the world. I mean, or the worst job in the world. The point is that your living situation depended on that job. You know, and you were like, "Oh man, how dare you say that something bad about Boba Fett?" Let me go ahead and just go ahead and quit this job effectively by smacking you. Yeah. So these are decisions that hopefully you've learned from, and in your new life. Maybe it's not the best idea to come to the defense of a Boba Fett tattoo.
Well, and alcohol played a lot into that story too, which
Yeah.
I was underplaying. But yeah, there was
So
yes.
you were at work while inebriated.
No, 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 no. This all happened off the clock, but the dorms are still company property.
Oh,
So
I see.
yeah,
I got
yep,
it. So off the clock, it's okay to drink, but you still got to watch your behavior.
yep, yep, yep. Which is true for I think most things in general. I
Yeah, yeah. I say if you signed up for the military, and even though you're not busy training, you're still in the barracks. You probably don't want to be smacking people.
probably not. Probably not.
So yeah, it was funny because we arrived to West Yellowstone in Montana, and sure, and of course, and I don't know, you're still able to manage having a cell phone, which is mind blowing, really. Where do you get where do the bills get sent when
It's
you're home?
remarkable.
Yeah,
It,
I mean, I realize you can pay your bill online. I realize, that's a possibility, but like you're not the most reliable person. And so I don't know if you get an email and you're like, oh, I guess I got to PayPal some money to my credit card. But anyways, that happened. So we saw you in Yellowstone, and then there was the whole move to Nashville, which I didn't see you when you were homeless and you moved to Nashville. But I did, as you were moving to Nashville, I did reach out to a bunch of people I knew in Nashville, and you got some help when
yes,
you
you
first
did. Thank
landed
you.
there.
Yep.
So let's hope that you don't end up homeless again. And if you do, let's put it under better circumstances. Okay? Can we do that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course. Of course. I mean, because, now I have family, kids,
Right.
dogs, obligations. So hopefully, if I go homeless this time, it'll be to put stuff in a storage facility and
Put
do
your stuff
things.
in
Yeah.
storage and earn money by traveling the country or doing whatever, saving your $2,000 a month that you were wasting on a San Francisco apartment or a Tennessee apartment, whatever. I don't know. Tennessee is probably not that expensive, but
Well, you say that, but all those people from San Francisco moved to Nashville.
I
So
know because it's so
that's,
cheap there.
oh man, I
And-
actually just saw a report. I think our average is home selling price is $500,000.
oh yeah, no, you can't buy anything in San Francisco for under $1 million.
Ah, okay, fair enough.
It's compared to New York, LA, San Francisco, where you live is incredibly affordable. Compared to Dothan, Alabama, Valdosta, Georgia, or places like that, you might as well live in Beverly Hills. But it's all relative. But don't just if you do end up homeless again, let's just make it different circumstances. You're on the road recording your podcasts or writing your book or something, and you're not you're not homeless because you made some extremely terrible life choices.
Man, I actually feel a lot better about having had been homeless now. Actually, haven't had after having this conversation with you, Dr. King. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
I feel like I can reach for the stars, but not like in a weird Elon way.
Well, I mean, what's so weird about the way Elon did it? You know, Elon Elon is a guy who not only reached for stars, he freaking grabbed them. You know, so
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah,
I
he's
mean, you know, honestly, you can do a lot worse than model yourself after Elon. But no, you have you were a guest on my podcast, and we talked about this. How I'm very I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm proud of you because I had nothing to do with it in my mind, but I would say that I'm very happy for you for having
I appreciate that, King, Dr.
having
King.
having lifted yourself out of pretty terrible circumstances to not only have a roof over your head on a consistent basis, but also, a partner that you married and love. I think you love her.
Oh, I do.
Yeah, seems like you love her. Some kids, a steady job. You haven't lost this job yet, right?
Not yet. I have to
Yeah.
check in about that, but
Yeah, definitely, definitely. You don't get any avoid all discussions about your Boba Fett tattoo. And so I think that your life has changed tremendously since I first met you, and of course as I've known you over the years. So yeah, no, it's a good thing. You're nothing short of remarkable.
nah.
Yeah? See what I did there?
Remarkable, 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 remarkable.